Hello, hello. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the iGaming experience. I'm your host, Sam Bhatti, here in the Zebra Studios in beautiful Podgorica, Montenegro, as usual. And today, got a good one. I'm diving into a major component of an iGaming brand, maybe arguably the biggest component, depending on what department you're coming from. I'm talking about the bonus engine. Now, to be clear, I don't want to disappoint anyone. This episode isn't about the actual bonuses, right? We might touch on them a little bit, right? We'll discuss welcome bonuses, free spins or reloads or cashbacks. That might come up in the conversation, but we're not really diving into those. Okay. And I'm not talking about general marketing, like marketing slogans or paid ads or pop-ups or things that specifically that feed into the bonus structure. Again, these will sort of be on the peripheral, but we're talking about the engine itself today. Okay, the system that's under the hood that decides when to award a bonus, who gets it, how it behaves, uh, which segments qualify, and how to protect the operator's revenue while still giving the players something fun and rewarding. Okay. It's a delicate balance that requires, at the very least, a very solid engine, solid bonus engine, along with a solid team. So if you're new to iGaming, this episode is going to give you, I guess I could say, like a whole new appreciation for what probably seems to you like a simple feature, right? If you've ever wondered why some brands or some operators feel generous and smooth while others feel a bit clunky and the bonus experience is frustrating, this episode will explain generally why. By the way, when I say operator, that might not be clear to everyone. I am referring to specific iGaming brands, like websites that you go to gamble. So like think Bet365 or stake.com. So yeah, the people whose site you go to place bets, essentially, that's what I'm referring to as operators. Okay, let's start with why bonus engines are so important. Right? You probably have some idea, but I'll just break it down. Bonuses are one of the strongest levers that an operator has. They influence acquisition and retention, right? Which I talked about at length in the previous episode. So if you need some more background on that, then finish listening to this one and then head on back. But beyond acquisition and retention, bonus engines factor in heavily on several other things like reactivation or churn prevention or increased LTV, right? Increased lifetime value, which means more money at the end of the day. Pretty much everything. But the bonus itself, right? So the free spins or the cashback or the extra deposit money, when we're talking about this whole process, that's actually the least interesting part. What really matters and where the creativity comes from is the logic behind it all. Right. So a bonus engine is like the brain of your promotional strategy. And by that, what I mean is like it knows everything. Okay. It knows who the player is. It knows what kind of behavior the player has shown. It knows how often they deposit, how they play, what their preferences are. And with the correct inputs, it knows how to trigger just the right incentive at just the right moment. Ever heard the expression timing is everything? Well, that's real. And when it comes to iGaming bonuses, it's significant. Good bonuses aren't random gifts. They're targeted, they're timed, and they're intentional. And that only happens if the bonus engine is smart and the team using it knows how to max out its abilities. So let's break it down. What actually makes up a bonus engine? Well, at its core, a bonus engine has a few main components. Right? It has, number one, it has triggers. Right? That's something that activates the bonus. It also has conditions. So that's the rules that the player has to follow. Of course, it has rewards, right? So the actual thing that's being given, it has restrictions as well. So, and these are key. We'll talk about all of these things in depth, by the way. It has restrictions to protect the operator from bonus abuse. Right, we'll get into that in a bit. It has segmentation, so deciding who gets the bonus, and it also has expiration and settlement logic, right, which is also critical, is deciding when the bonus is granted and when it ends. Now, I'm going to walk you through each of these things I just listed in real language, because once you understand them, you'll see bonuses, I don't want to say completely differently, but you'll see them differently if you don't understand any of those things I just said before. Or at least, you'll have a new perspective to add to your own knowledge and experience. If you've been around the bonus engine game a little bit before, you're not one of the newbies here. Welcome, by the way, if you're not one of the newbies. If you get experience in the industry, hit me up, man. This is cool. Cool that you're checking this out. All right. So let's start from the beginning here. Check my notes. Yep. Okay. Triggers. Number one, let's talk about them. Triggers are the decision center of a bonus engine. Okay. So they answer the question, when should this bonus fire? Right. So we talked about timing. So shows you how important this is. So common triggers will include things like making a deposit or completing a number of spins or losing a certain amount, right? Or being inactive for a number of days. That can trigger a bonus. Hitting specific milestones set by the operator, right? Completing a mission. All of these things can be triggers, and those are just the basics, right? But I would say most operators generally wrap their heads around those things, but we're not trying to be general here, right? We're learning the game and we want to go next level, right? So next level operators will go past all that, right? They will get granular with the targeting and with the logic. They'll use their bonus engines to set triggers based on player segments, right? More on that later. They'll be monitoring and reacting to behavior in real time, right? Which is used to be a nice to have. Now it's critical. You need to be reacting to things as they happen, right? Or they also set and react to risk levels. This is important as well. You're having fun, you're giving stuff away, but that needs to be controlled. And then lastly, the operators that are really pushing the limits are even using predictive models. Right? This isn't new, but they've become a lot more advanced lately, as I'm sure you can imagine with AI. And these predictive models are becoming more of like a real roadmap as opposed to something that was informative. Right? So I'll give you an example. If a player is displaying some signs that they're about to churn, okay, which means that they're going to go from an active player to an inactive player. Maybe their session time is decreasing or they haven't deposited in a while, things like that. A smart bonus engine can recognize that and automatically send a gentle nudge to that player, right? And depending on, if it's really smart, depending on what they're interested in, right? It might toss them some free spins, small cashback, who knows, right? Depends on the player. So we're talking about triggers here, and I guess I could sum it up really by saying that triggers are where the magic starts. Okay, this is the beginning of the journey. Now let's talk about the actual rules. Okay, I'd mentioned conditions. Let's talk about the conditions. Conditions are the rules that make the bonus fair, okay, for both the player and the operator. They protect the operator from giving away too much, too fast. For example, you might have a condition that says the bonus only applies to certain games, right? Or that the player must wager the bonus a certain number of times before withdrawing. This is very common. That's also known as the wagering requirement, right? I've talked about it in previous episodes. That can be that wagering requirement, which, not to fully explain it, but essentially it's the amount that you have to bet to turn the bonus money into real money. That can be the delicate balance, or the big decision that will sway a player towards or away from you, is how reasonable that requirement is, right? Because you have a range anywhere from 0 up to like hundreds of times, literally. So an interesting thing, but I don't want to digress too much into the specifics. Okay, so this is really where you need to find the balance between protecting the operator and making a bonus actually useful, right? If you're too strict, then you get frustrated players, right? If you're too loose, then you get abused as an operator. So the best bonus engines will strike, or at least aim to strike, the perfect balance. So you want enough freedom for the player to enjoy and have fun on your site, yet enough control for the operator to stay profitable and not get smoked putting out a bonus that drains their last month or 2 or 3 or 6 months of GGR. And I've seen something like that, to be honest. Only really one time have I seen a bonus really come back and smack the operator that I was working for. But I've heard about it many times, many times. So stay tuned, folks. Keep listening. Now, let's move on to the star of the actual show here, right? Which is the actual reward. So, like I said before, this might be free spins or it might be bonus cash. Very common that it would be a percentage of their deposit, or something different. You know, maybe they would get like granted a tournament ticket or something, free entry or free bet. The reward itself that's actually the easiest part, right? What makes it super powerful is how it's delivered. In fact, a bonus can be worth less, but if it's delivered in the right way, it would be valued more by the player. It sounds crazy to some of you. Maybe some of you, you're like, yeah, totally, I'm that guy. But it's a very interesting dynamic. This whole thing when it comes to bonusing, it's a very interesting chess match. In which hopefully at the end of it, everybody wins, right? The player and the operator. All right, so let me give you an example, right, of how delivery is going to impact the way that this bonus is perceived and enjoyed. Right, imagine you've got two operators and they're giving the exact same bonus. Okay, so one just sends a standard email that says, hey, deposit 20 euros and you're going to get a bonus 20 euros. The other one sends a personalized message, right? Maybe an email or however they can contact you. And it's mentioning your favorite game, something you've played before. It's got a cool visual on it, something that is on brand for them. And assuming you're already on their brand, you probably enjoy seeing things like that. And it should also have a clear explanation of how the bonus works, right? Make it easy for them, walk them through it. All right. And in this way, you're basically treating the customer like an actual human being, as opposed to just treating them like a number. Right. If everyone's just getting the same bonus, like, no one's going to feel special. Right. So you can give them the same bonus. They're going to have a completely different experience based on the delivery. In fact, I'll make a blanket statement right here. In a great bonus engine, the delivery of the reward is as important as the reward itself. All right, chew on that. That's legit. Okay, so we've talked about the fun bits now, right? Where people are earning rewards, we're giving it to them. But now we need to talk about something that's a little bit less exciting, which is restrictions, right? Before you can decide what to do, right, you need to know what you can't do as well, right? These are crucial. Number one, because restrictions prevent the main issue that operators have when it comes to bonuses, and that's bonus abuse. All right, that's a real and expensive problem in this industry. Right, which is not going anywhere, by the way. We're not trying to, I mean, obviously we're trying to get rid of it, but that's not a realistic goal, right? We're trying to mitigate it here, right, with restrictions. I don't think I've really broken down the term bonus abuse that much on this podcast, but I mean, I think it somewhat explains itself, right? Like, simply put, bonus abuse is when users accept your bonus with the sole intention of just claiming the bonus, turning it into real money with next to no risk, and then moving on to the next operator. Right? That's one form, at least. Bonus abuse, it comes from players who aren't here to play. That's probably a better way to put it. They're here to exploit loopholes and to just generate risk-free profits and take from operators. Part of the game, unfortunately. So we know the problem. We know the bonus abusers are out there, but how to stop them? Right? What restrictions are we supposed to apply here? What are you even talking about, Sam? Right? Well, okay, I'll get specific. So restrictions include a whole bunch of things, right? But just to give you a general overview, they include things like game exclusions, like maximum bets, right? So just limiting that. Wagering requirements, wagering multipliers, like I just said earlier. You've got time limits on bonuses. You've got rules about switching from low volatility games to high volatility games, or odds on sports books from low to high. And this is to mitigate the players from reducing their risk to a point that's unacceptable for the operator. Right, that's when you're going to start to lose money on these bonuses, hence the abuse. So, but again, as I said before, we're trying to keep this fun, right? We don't want this to be so rigid. So the best bonus engines will apply these restrictions intelligently, right? Not as blanket rules that just annoy legitimate players, right? But more as targeted protections and for the operator, right? And you can base that on the player himself. Treat him like a human being. You look at his risk score, look at his behavior, right? Or her. No one likes to be punished for other people's actions, right? So to the best we can, especially with technology now, we really need to strive to take this to a personal level, right? And in fact, that segues great into the next section, which is to talk about segmentation. So in my opinion, the real superpower of a great bonus engine is segmentation. Right? You'd be surprised how limited some of these systems are. But when you get a really solid one, it really solves a lot of your problems for you. Right? And the big one here that I'm about to talk about is the problem of grouping everyone together. Right? So segmentation is what separates a beginner operator from a truly world-class one. Right? The more granular you can get. Right? Because a bonus that works for one player, it may be completely wrong for another player. Right? A high-value VIP doesn't want the same offer that a casual slot player wants. Right? A sports bettor probably doesn't want free spins. A new player, they might appreciate a small little nudge to get them going, right? With an email or a pop-up. A returning player, they might need something a little bit stronger. They might need a little bit juicier of a bonus to get them back in the game. in any event, just give them a reason to come back to the party, right? You're throwing a party, you want everyone there, having a good old time. So segmentation, right? And a great bonus engine will allow marketers and CRM teams to design bonuses for specific audiences, right? Specific segments. Every operator is going to have its own list, right? Of how they group players, how they segment them. But to give you an idea of generally how this would work, I would say players can be grouped into a few main buckets, right? One of them, the first one we've talked about, loads, first-time depositors. You guys know all about that. Churned players, which I explained a little bit earlier. Loyal players, right? Guys that you've had on your site, no problems, long time. VIPs, right? So some of these high rollers. Then you've got your high risk players as well. So keep an eye on that. And then you've got players who are playing specific games, or at specific times, like maybe they only play on the weekends. And I should say last but not least, another not so fun topic, but a very important one, is segmenting players that are showing some responsible gaming indicators, right? Where maybe you need to keep an eye on their activity to keep this fun for everyone and keep them around and playing, in a responsible manner. Okay, so with all that, right, when segmentation is done right, bonuses feel personal, right? And players feel understood. And it's important to say that players don't just land in these segments, okay? Each one has taken their own journey, and operators should recognize that, right? If you're just handing out the same bonus to everyone, it doesn't feel like a real bonus. It's just something that comes with the experience, that comes with signing up to your site. But when things get more personal, and bonuses are triggered by actual actions or inactions of individual players, then when a bonus is offered to them, and this is key, note this down, they will feel like they earned the reward. It wasn't just handed to them. They earned it. This is now something that they have worked for and are entitled to claim. Like, think about bonuses and offers you've claimed in the past, right? iGaming or not. I'll bet there are some that were given to you for taking a certain action, like, I don't know, signing up for a newsletter or sharing one of their posts, and you received an offer in return. And I'd be willing to bet that made you much more likely to follow up on that offer. You might not have, but definitely a stronger push than without it. So certainly worth rolling into your own bonus plan, your own bonus strategy. Okay. And now let's complete the bonus circle. Okay. And to do that, you've got to get to the end, which is expiration and settlement logic. Okay. So basically just how the bonus ends. And this will include things like when the bonus stops, what happens if it expires, whether unused rewards are removed, how wagering is tracked, when funds are unlocked, and how the player is notified of all these things. Right? If these parts are poorly designed, right, we can go back to the beginning of the episode, you're going to end up with frustrated players who feel like their bonuses just disappeared and they wasted their time or their money. Right? Your site didn't behave the way that they expected. Right? Now they're out of here. So you've spent time and effort and money trying to incentivize these guys, and it's had the exact opposite effect. Right? It's what I call a total backfire. Right? So on the flip side, if the bonus is well designed, players feel a sense of clarity, right? They feel transparency, they feel fairness. And when players feel the system is fair, they trust the operator. And I've talked at length about trust, probably in every episode that comes up. In iGaming, this is the biggest hurdle you have to get over, is trust. And once you're able to get over that, that's when you get to start to look at really strong retention, right? Again, go back to the previous episode if you want more on that. Okay, so I've just sort of talked about it if everything goes right. Right, the player goes through the triggers and they get a personalized bonus and they take it and they go through the requirements and they make some money, they lose some money, everybody's happy. But let me talk for a moment about failed bonus engines. Okay, it's easy to assume that all operators are pretty much equal and they do generally the same things on the bonus side, but they're not and they don't. Right? Some bonus engines are super rigid, right? Very little flexibility. They can only handle simple offers. Anything complex that you want to do outside of, some of the more standard bonuses that I mentioned earlier requires a developer, right? Promotions can take weeks to build instead of just minutes with a more sophisticated bonus engine. Right? You've got some engines. And after what I just said earlier, if you're new to iGaming, this might surprise you, but if you've been around, I'm sure you've seen this. Some bonus engines just can't handle segmentation, just full stop. So literally every player gets the same bonus. And, as I said before, that just leads to wasted money and poor results and unenthused players. Right? Then you've also got engines that are too strict, right? Just causing players to give up. They just give them an impossible task and they just feel like they're being scammed. And then on the flip side, you've got other engines that are too loose, which brings on the bonus abusers. Right, you got it. And then some engines are just confusing, right? The player doesn't understand what they received. They don't understand why they received it or what to do to get it or what to do next, right? How to claim it. And that type of experience is going to have the opposite effect of what you're trying to do. It just kills retention, right? Again, backfire. A great bonus engine, looking at the things that we actually want right here, a great bonus engine is flexible, it's predictable, and ideally extremely automated. Right? Doesn't have to be 100%, but there's got to be a lot of automation built in there. And when it hits all three of these things, it becomes one of the strongest tools in the operator's arsenal. As I said at the beginning, arguably the strongest. Right? All right. Now you've got a ton of context, a ton of information about bonus engines. Let's put everything together. All right. And a little bit of a recap here. Let's just paint the picture of what a world-class bonus engine looks like. So you'll know it when you see it. Okay? A great bonus engine is fast. Right? I talked about real time earlier. It allows CRM teams to craft offers instantly without waiting for devs. Right? You can just get in there, you see the opportunity, you clear it with your team, you execute. Right? Another key element to a great bonus engine is it's intelligent. Right? It uses that real-time data for what? To trigger, right? Going back to the beginning, to trigger bonuses at the perfect moment. A great bonus engine is personalized. It adapts to player behavior and player preferences and player patterns, constantly watching. A great bonus engine is safe. It has built-in protections. You get risk flags, and it'll integrate with your responsible gaming tools. It's transparent, right? The player always knows what they received and what they need to do. And not just on the player side, it's transparent to the operator side as well. Your team understands what they're offering, what they're putting out there, what the risk is, what the implications are. And most importantly, a great bonus engine is fun, right? It creates excitement. It makes the experience feel alive. It helps your site stand out amongst the rest, right? It lets your team get creative. It lets you innovate. It lets you market. It lets you acquire. It lets you retain. Bonus engines, baby. They're massive, right? And if an operator can wrap their head around that, right? If they can achieve all that we discussed above and wrap that all into their bonus engine, then they have, I mean, understatement of the year, they have a massive competitive advantage, right? Because we're in an industry where innovation comes slowly and where a ton of brands offer pretty much the same bonuses, right? So if you're just, as I said before, if you're just handing everyone the same thing, then the engine behind those bonuses can be the thing that actually sets them apart, right? It'll go back to timing and segmentation and all the things we just discussed. All right. And that's it. That's the under the hood view of what makes a great bonus engine, right? It's not just about giving players free stuff. Probably should have started with that. It's not about giving players free stuff. It's about giving the right player the right incentive at the right time, while at the same time protecting the business and building long-term loyalty, right? The best operators in the world don't win big because they give bigger bonuses. They win because their bonus engines are smarter, right? More flexible, more personal, more strategic. That's how they're getting an edge in this game. And that's it on bonus engines. You know, in the future, I'll have some episodes specific to bonuses themselves and how to craft a user journey and get them from start to finish and then assess the impact of that, and then craft new bonuses and journeys for the future. But for now, just understand the bonus engine itself, that it exists, that there's a logic behind it, and that it's one of the most powerful tools you can have in this industry. Thanks again, everyone, for checking us out, for listening. I'm Sam Bhatti here in the Zebra Studios in Podgorica, Montenegro. And as I always, it's funny, actually. Usually I end it by saying, if you know someone new to the industry, share this podcast with them. Maybe it'll help them out. And I'm a bit torn when I say that, because they should be finding it themselves, right? If they deserve to level up, and if they're curious enough to get the knowledge that they don't have, or to find out what knowledge they don't have, maybe we should let them find it on their own. So maybe, you know what? Maybe don't share it. How about that? Just keep this as your own secret sauce, right? And share your knowledge, but let them come and find this. All right, iGaming Experience crew, thank you for checking it out, and I will catch you in the next episode. Cheers.